Fellas, so it's a pleasure again to have you guys here. Thanks again, on the podcast. So I have Dave Jannuzzi and Willie Chandler, both two really good friends of mine. I've known them for years. Um, it's a very honoring thing to say that I'm literally on this chat with two of the most decorated Division III basketball players of all time, and I don't use any hyperbole when I say that. Dave Jannuzzi is considered the most decorated player to ever play at Wilkes, my player of the year under the Division III class. Will, all decade, which is insane, player of the year in the conference 2001, 2, and 3, right?
Yeah, 99. Yeah, all 4 years. Yep.
Well, 4 years. My bad. 4 years. So my man played in college for 4 years and was considered the best player in his conference all 4 years. Was that the same for you, Dave, or?
Yeah, three of them. Three of the four.
3 of the 4? You get it together, man. But no, so it's just an honor to be on here talking to you guys. And I'll start with Dave, man. Dave, just talk a little bit about your career at Wilkes, where you started, your decision in going to Wilkes, and just briefly about a little bit of the experiences that you had there while you're at Wilkes. And you played under Rick Rowe, right?
Yep. Yeah, I played under Jerry Rickroad. Great college coach. He had the best winning percentage in all of college basketball for, I think, his first decade of coaching. My decision to go to Wilkes was pretty simple for me. I mean, I grew up in Wilkes-Barre. That's where I've spent my whole entire childhood. I had very few scholarship offers. Matter of fact, I only had one scholarship offer coming out of high school. I mean, we live in an area, I think Willie will agree, we live in an area that doesn't get much publicity or, college scouts coming in. So, at the time that I came through college, AAU wasn't as big. So, to get your name out was much different than how it is now. So, didn't really have many opportunities, and Wilkes had just come off of getting to the Elite Eight back-to-back years. They, were the number one team in the country at one point prior to me getting there. And Jerry Rickrow was a very, very good recruiter, and sold my family on coming there and being an All-American and Player of the Year and having a chance to win a national championship. So I knew for where I wanted to go with sports, I wanted to play professional basketball and have an opportunity to play professional basketball. And with the opportunities that I had, offered to me coming out of high school, Wilkes was an easy choice for me for an opportunity to give myself enough recognition and success to have an opportunity to play professional basketball. And it, worked out pretty well.
Yeah, man, I'd say. And you played at Wilkes, which was neighboring to my alma mater, where Will is the actual head coach now. We'll get a little more into that. And the first thing I remember coming in the area, nobody couldn't stop talking about Dave Jannuzzi. Dave Jannuzzi was the best thing to everybody to everywhere. And I knew for me personally, what gravitated to me was I just needed to be around greatness. And that's how I am even today. I just want to be around. I find the best at everything, and I just want to be around that person or that entity. I came with him as a coordinator where Will went. Will led her there as well. And as I mentioned at the top, Will had a bunch of Player of the Year accolades, All-American as well, right, Will?
Yep.
And you're contrary to him being out of Wilkes-Barre, we're from Scranton. Just talk about your voyage to getting to Misericordia.
Yeah, mine was a little different than Dave. I played 3 sports in high school. So I played football, basketball, and baseball. And according to everyone in Scranton, even in other areas, that basketball is my least. It was my last sport. Everyone thought, hey, go play football, go play baseball. You're just doing basketball for fun. Because football, I had probably 12 big-time Division I offers. Pitt, Virginia, West Virginia, all wanted me to. But the thing with them, they all wanted me to come in, redshirt, gain some weight, and play tight end. And I was a receiver.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, I was a receiver in high school, a strong safety in high school. So they wanted me either for defense or tight end, not receiver. But I wanted to play receiver. I want to, I want to catch the touchdown.
Yeah.
But the one thing that stopped me with football was it was my last visit to Virginia. I sat down with the head coach. He said, I got one scholarship available, and I want you to have it. But you got to report here by June. I looked at him, and at that time I wasn't that serious about anything. I wanted to just chill with my friends and, go to senior week and do all that stuff there, And I just looked at him and said, no, thank you. I'm gonna play basketball. But then I ended up having a huge senior year for baseball. Like I batted like .589, hit like 6 home runs, and all of a sudden like Phillies were calling, and they're like, come try out, come work out. I tried out for the Red Barons. I made the second cut. I went, and they're like, all right, you got to come down to Clearwater, Florida now. And one of my teammates got signed. He ended up playing for the Phillies single A team for Dave Staples. He was my high school basketball teammate too. Me and him went to the same tryout. He got signed. They offered me to come down, but it's either that or go to East Stroudsburg on a full scholarship for basketball. So I was, at the time, I was like, I love basketball. Basketball, was my first love. And I'm like, I got to play basketball. So I told, Lynn Ramage, who was the head coach of East Stroudsburg, I'm like, I'm coming to play for you. And then he told me straight up, he said, cut all that football stuff and baseball stuff off right now. He goes, I'm giving you a full scholarship. You're done with that stuff. But my first day on East Stroudsburg's campus, the football coach comes calling to the basketball coach. Hey, think I can steal Chandler for a couple months? And Coach Ramage is like, no, unless you want to pay for half the scholarship, you could, but that's what, I had a tougher decision. That's the big question. I talk to these kids now. Like I've been on a lot of these Zoom calls with high school teams and AAU teams right now since we can't go see them play. I've been talking on these Zooms to them and telling them my experience. And the big question is, hey, should I play more than one sport? I tell, a lot of these parents are forcing their kids to, hey, just concentrate on basketball, concentrate on football.
Yeah.
Man, play as many sports as you can. I try to tell these kids, it gets you better for every sport. Every sport you play gets you better for the other sport, no matter what. Football got me stronger and ready for basketball. Basketball got me quicker, hand-eye coordination, ready for baseball. So it was all connected for me. You can't give all your time to one sport, which, a lot of these kids try, every kid thinks they're going to the NBA, major leagues or NFL nowadays. And it's not that easy. Me and Dave know, me and Dave put the numbers we put up Division III and then played well in the professionals and still didn't get to the NBA. And it's not, when I'm showing up to NBA tryouts, after my senior year of college and there's, I'm going against 6, 7 guys, the same position as me. I'm like, all right, the money's overseas. That's where my mindset was, let me just hit overseas, get a couple thousand every month and call it a day. When I started, my first workout, after I got out of college, I went down to the Valley Dogs. And even that, that was like a semi-pro league. And Daryl Dawkins was the coach. I mean, every kid was from Dayton, Dayton, Xavier, Temple. And then you had me, couldn't say Misericordia to start. It took about 3 months for him to get used to saying Misericordia. So it's kind of, that was where me and Dave started off. Going Division III and being the big fish in a small pond was great. But when it came to playing professional, we started off, we had to prove ourselves a lot more than other people that went to big Division I schools. Even though I think we're better than most of them. Like I showed up like, all right, I'm gonna give him work. Yeah. I'm going out there to score. That's what teams paid me to score.
Me knowing you, I can contest to that's exactly. I've never seen a moment bigger than Will. Or Will, I've never seen you in a moment where you're like, this is bigger than me. I think Kobe could have walked in the room and you would have been like, I'm giving him work too.
Oh, when I played Kobe as a sophomore, all the talk was Kobe. I'm like, I'm shutting him down. I'm 15 years old. I'm like, he's averaging 38 a game in high school. I'm like, I'm shutting him down. Then we get to the game, he has 10 dunks, and I'm like, I'm not shutting him down. No, but that's Corey, that's how your mindset has to be, though. And I try to get that. I try to instill that in my guys. Now, these kids are different now. Me coaching these kids, they're different than how we came up. They're different. They're raised different than how we came up.
Right.
I yell at a kid now. I love my team. I yell at a kid now. I got to go give him a hug a second later. It's not,
yeah, it's different.
It's not like, we get yelled at, coach will F us up and down. And I understood, all right, coach, you got it. I do that to a kid now. I'm afraid he might go back and tell, the AD or the president, and I might get fired.
Yeah, the landscape is definitely different with that. And it's funny you were talking about the whole confidence thing. Like Dave, I remember when you played, Dave was, you guys are both decorated, played at the same level, a lot of the same, same accolades and stuff like that, but have much different personalities. Dave, you were mostly very quiet. And I just remember going to games and I would watch Dave play, and he was very subtle about everything. You didn't really realize. And then you look at the stat sheet. Who's this guy with 25 at the house? You know what I mean? Like before you know it, Dave gave you 25 and you didn't realize it. Dave, what kind of confidence did it take you being at the Division III level to going and playing against these other schools? You're going out to Philly, you're going out to Delaware, playing against different schools all around the country. What kind of confidence level did you have in yourself just going to them games?
It's funny. I mean, that's, the success that myself and Willie have. I mean, really, you have the same mindset. You know what I mean? You might express it differently on the court or off the court, but you have the same mindset. Now, everything that Willie was saying about, every time I stepped on the court, there was nobody that was better than me. And that's what my mentality was. And quite frankly, that's what my mentality still is. I mean, if it's not, you just shouldn't be playing the sport, or you're certainly not going to be good at the sport. And, every time when you grow up in an area, like I said, when you grow up in an area where you don't really see many college coaches come through, you kind of feel like, you got a chip on your shoulder. I mean, and that's the way I always felt. I always felt like I had a chip on my shoulder. I always felt, if you're 6 foot, 6 foot playing in basketball, you're undersized, you're slow, everybody consider, every time I went anywhere, no matter how I would score points, they'd say, oh, well, he's a shooter. And quite frankly, they said that because I was white, you know what I mean? So every time, I stepped on the court, it was always, it was funny because I watched, obviously I watched some of, The Last Dance, and, through basically every episode, somebody would be saying, well, Jordan, he'd always make up something, even if it was just made up in his own head, he'd always have something made up to give him motivation. So I always had something in my mind, imaginary or not, that, somebody was trying to hold me down or trying to get over on me or pass me up. So there was always some kind of edge when I stepped on the court, and, it was no different for me. When I had my opportunity to play against Kobe, I said the same exact thing that Willie said. You know what I mean? You didn't feel like anybody was better than you, and you wanted to go out and prove that you were better than that person, no matter what his accolades were, no matter how tall they were, no matter how big they were, you always had some kind of chip on your shoulder to give you an edge.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think it's even more, because I think what happens is the guys who get all the accolades, the big time Division I guys or whatever else, those guys, they don't come in with that same push. They don't come in with that same drive, that same grind, that same, like, I got to pull it out the mud type mentality, because everything has been handed to them. And every single day, people are telling them that they're the best, they're the greatest, they're the best, they're the greatest. So now, Will, so you were going to go to ESU, which is a Division II, and they ended up going to
ESU. I went to ESU. Okay. Yeah, I went to ESU. So how did you transition at Misericordia? The following year. My first year out of high school, I went to ESU.
Okay.
Left there. I left there second semester, went to Lackawanna the first semester. And that's when I started figuring out schools. I was looking at Wilkes, Scranton, Kings, and Misericordia. I had, just for me to stay on the books, I had to stay local. I had to stay local. Because my thing, I got away, I got to Strasburg. It was just, one big party for me, and it messed me up pretty, it messed me up a lot. I just wasn't going to class, I was going to the basketball workouts, but I wasn't going to class, and I know I need to stay local where, my family was close, where they could keep an eye on me. If I'm messing up, they kick me in the butt, But once I met Coach Martin, that was it. He sold me right away. I told him first of all, you need new uniforms because they had the, booty shorts. That's the first thing I said. I went and seen. I saw him play in the playoffs against Newman. I remember that Coach Woodruff's playing, Bob Tugin. I'm like, how are these guys wearing these shorts? And he said, I sat in his office. Coach Martin. He started talking, and that was it. He got me. He sold me, and the unfortunate part, we never got to play Wilkes. With Dave there. We never got to. They probably would have beat up on us, but we never got the chance to play them. I know we're in the same tournament one time, maybe his senior year when I think Horace Jenkins and all those guys came up here and played at Wilkes. It was a big time.
That was the year. That was the year I got hurt, actually.
Yeah, that was a big time tournament. It was like Maine Farmington. They're ranked. William Patterson with Horace Jenkins, who went to the Pistons and played. And I know Wilkes was ranked at the time. We're the only unranked team in the tournament. And we end up losing to William Patterson, and Wilkes beat Maine Farmington, and then that was the battle. Wilkes, that's the first time I stayed and watched the game. We ended up beating Maine Farmington the next day, and I stayed and watched that Wilkes and Patterson game, and it was like a tournament game. I'm like, this is, and I looked at our team. I said, this is what we need to get in the tournament. I'm like, we need some pieces, because it looked like a Division I game out there, Like I said, I was fortunate. Me and Dave got to play together professional a little bit, semi-pro here. And it's funny, like, I'm tough to play with. If you're not, and Dave's the same way, if you're not doing your job, I'm tough to play with. I'm going to let you know you're not doing your job. And Dave's the same way. And I think that's why me and Dave played pretty well together. I think we matched up pretty well together. I enjoyed playing with Dave a lot. Everyone's like, oh, he just shoots the ball. But no, Dave was a hell of a passer too. And like I said, how competitive he was and matched up with me well. And Mike Morak and those guys will tell you stories about me in practice. I didn't mess around, man. If you weren't doing your job in practice and we had a run, we might be fighting in the locker room after practice. It wasn't, guys might say, oh, Will's a dick. But no, it's not. It's about, I want to be the best. I wanted our team. And, that's the biggest regret I have at Misericordia. We never made the tournament. I had all the individual awards and stuff, and we never won a championship. That's why I always say me as a coach winning a championship is better than anything I got scoring-wise. And I tell my guys that. Anything I got, these two championships as a head coach, is the best thing I had in basketball. Everyone's going, oh, he scored.
We're going to get into that. I'm going to talk more about that, what's going on. So Dave, when you at Wilkes, now you guys had a lot of success while you were there, and I think Will was just kind of alluding to that. You had a couple tournament bids, right?
Yeah, we made the tournament every year, and then my sophomore year, we made it to the Final Four. But yeah, every year we made it to the tournament. It was, that's what I went there for. Like I said, the 2 years prior to me getting there, Wilkes had been to the Elite Eight. They spent a little time during the regular season, as the #1 team in the country, and that's what Rick Road sold me on. I mean, just like Willie said. I mean, you wanted to win, and then individual accolades and individual stats really fell far short of wanting to be on a team that won. And Rick Road sold me on an opportunity to win a national championship. That's why I went there. Because I saw the guys that were there. I saw that, that they had success at that level, getting deep into the tournament. And, I wanted the same thing, because I knew even if it was Division III, if you made your way through the NCAA tournament, made it on a national level, made it as far as the Final Four, or, what we were hoping for, win a national championship, you'd have an opportunity to play professional basketball. And that was a selling point for me to go to Wilkes. Was there was already a winning culture there. The guys that were there were guys that I knew, because they had a lot of local guys, so I knew where I stood, where my game stood against theirs, and I knew I had an opportunity to come into a program that already knew how to win, and I wanted to go after a national championship. And we got close, and we had our opportunities, and there was a couple years I definitely thought if things, the ball bounced the right way in the tournament, we could have got to the championship. I mean, that Horace Jenkins team, that tournament that Willie's talking about, we had that tournament my first senior year, which I ended up having a redshirt because I got hurt 5 games in the season. So I ended up redshirting that. But we had that tournament, and, William Patterson, was a top-ranked team. We were a top-ranked team. I mean, they ended up making it to the national championship the following year, and losing in the final. So, and our team beat William Patterson in that tournament, and I didn't even play. So, I knew we had an opportunity to create a lot of success and win a lot. And fortunately, we did. We still have regrets that we didn't win a national championship, but we had the opportunity. So it was a good ride for sure.
Yeah, one thing you talked about is culture, winning culture, and that's big. And you guys have been making mentions of The Last Dance. And for me personally, that's been like the key is, Will just kind of talked about it. People may have thought I was a jerk. Will identified with the person that was difficult to play for or play with, rather. And it kind of goes to like that whole thing where if you're really, really good or great at something, it's hard for you to teach other people. But contrary to that narrative, Will, you've gone to Misericordia and had awesome success, some really, really good success. Let's talk about that some.
No, when I first got to Misericordia, I think, Coach Martin, they made the playoffs the year before, but they never really, it was Wilkes and Scranton in the area. That's it. And Kings had Kings had some good teams, so that was my main mindset of going to Misericordia, starting something new. It wasn't, they were there, but no one knew they were up in the back mountain, so that was my main mindset. Wilkes, Rick Rowe, he came and tried to sell me, and it was great. Like Dave said, he could recruit, man. And that's the one thing I try to do now, recruiting. You got to sell a kid, But Scranton was too close to home. I lived a block away from Scranton my whole life, so I wasn't going there. And I just didn't fit in. I don't think I fit in at Scranton anyway, so I wasn't going there. And Kings,
those from your area know what you mean with that too.
Yeah,
yeah, you have to be a certain type of person to go to Scranton.
Yeah, and Kings really just weren't Kings. They didn't come after me as hard as I thought they would. Wilkes did, and Scranton did, and Misericordia did, and Kings kind of backed off. I made them pay for the next 4 years, but they kind of backed off me a little bit.
I like that.
But I just loved everything about Misericordia. The one thing about Misericordia I was kind of a little nervous about was the minority situation. I came from Scranton High School, which was it's a big minority school, and a lot of Spanish, a lot of Black, it's a lot of mixed. And I went to Misericordia, and me and my dad went for the visit, and I looked around. I didn't see anyone. I didn't see any minorities. And that's the first.
I know a little bit about that, just a little bit.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, you understand. You've been there. So even on the team, I didn't see any of this. So that's the one thing I said to Coach Martin. I said, what's the diversity? What's I'm working on it. I think if you come here, you'll help the situation. And but you got to be. You got to be able to handle some stuff to go to Misericordia, and be up in that back mountain and be able to handle it. But I want to start the program up, and and I think I did a pretty good job. I think even though we didn't win any championships, Misericordia, we got a lot more guys from Scranton up there. By the time I graduated, I think there was like 4 or 5 guys from Scranton there, and we never knew where Misericordia was. I lived in Scranton, never even knew where Misericordia was. I didn't know where Dallas, PA was. I thought that was like 2 hours away.
Right.
I honestly, I didn't know where Dallas, PA was, so I drove up. I'm like, oh, it's right here. I really didn't know. I didn't know, and but Coach Martin, like I said, he sold me, and I don't regret it at all. That's the one that people say, oh, do you regret? I'm like, no. They gave me a chance to shine. And Coach Martin gave me the free reign to do whatever I wanted, as long as I listened to him. And it put me, like I said, what I did at Misericordia, it allowed me to travel the world and play basketball. It really did. And that's why I try to sell guys now when I recruit them, being a big fish in a small pond. I try to recruit scholarship kids, and I try to sell my story to those kids. And a lot of times it worked. I've been lucky enough to have a couple kids that should have been scholarship that came to Misericordia and won me some championships. And that's my goal to keep doing it. You know, I got to sell these kids to be in a big. Don't go somewhere and sit on the bench for 3 years. You know, and maybe play your senior year. Why waste 3 years? Come here and be the man. You know, you might be paying some more money, but you know, you'll get a job. You'll get a job to make that up in the end. You know, you'll get a job to make that up in the end, and that's the one thing I try to sell. You know, but you know, I'm Misericordia through and through. You know, it's just I can't say enough about it. You know, did a lot. You know, even though there, you know, like I said, by the time I graduated, there's probably about 4 minorities on campus. So now it's totally different. Now, you know, they're pushing that diversity piece now. You know, you know, my big thing. I try to recruit a lot of diversity. You know, it's still tough getting kids to come up there and walk around campus and be like, you know, especially Philadelphia kids I want to be here. You know, so it's that's my goal now is to try to push the diversity piece in Misericordia. I've been outspoken about it, and that's my big goal right now before I leave there, you know, get some more diversity up there. You know,
yeah, it's crazy. When I went through my process, you know, first I came from a Division I, and then I had some transitions with that. But that was the sell for me. You know, Martin and Coach Griffiths at the time.
Yep.
Willie Chandler. You know, he's a Division I player. He came here, you know, and I'm like, why are they talking about this guy? Because I never saw a picture or anything. Why are they talking about this guy so much? Who is this dude? And then I finally like went to a game or something, and I'm like, oh, that's why they're talking to me so much about him. So yeah, they sold me on that. So it was definitely appreciated. Now, one question I have for both of y'all, because I was talking to and I'm a rumor for people. I was talking to Badu Gay, who we all played against, who's another great player in our league. Were any of y'all recruited, Dave, I'll ask you first, recruited by any other like Division I schools or even Division I or Division II schools while you were at Wilkes? To like transfer out?
No.
Never happened? Okay.
You say anyone reach out while we were playing? Court?
Oh yeah, I thought you were talking about that. Yeah, did you have any schools like? Because I've heard stories. I heard stories mostly about you, Will, and you're gonna tell us now. But like, did you have any schools reach out like, yo, come to us after your sophomore year or whatever?
I mean, there's a lot of illegal conversations going on, you know. But I was never leaving Misericordia. You know, I know my sophomore year, I think I averaged 30 a game. After that year, I heard, and I'll tell you the truth, there was no truth to it at all, because everywhere I went, oh, you're going here. I'm like, I don't know who's starting these rumors, but I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like you know, and that's where I think after my sophomore year is where it started the most. You know, that was the second year in a row I led the country